Hey, welcome everybody. There we go. Bang on time or not. Dave arrives just in the nick of time to get going online, but it's just a fraction past 7. Okay, welcome everybody and welcome Dave. Good morning, Dave. How you doing?
Pretty good. And I have to make an announcement first off. I have to defend myself.
Defend yourself?
I have been accused early on today that I suffer from Trump derangement syndrome. No, I suffer from a syndrome, all right, and it's called deranged Trump syndrome. Not Trump deranged syndrome, deranged Trump syndrome, because Trump, of course, is deranged. And I think
Why
probably
why would that be you suffering from something?
well, because it's impossible to take your eyes away from all the derangement coming out of the White House.
Well, let's be honest.
The latest one, he wants to send us hospital. Hey, wait a minute. The latest one was he wants to send a hospital ship to Denmark, to Greenland.
Yeah.
He wants to send a hospital ship to Greenland, and nobody's sick.
Well, it's all right. It's all right.
They have free medical.
Yeah, it's all right. Denmark has responded. They've said that they will send 2 mental asylum ships to Washington. But anyway, that's not.
Yeah, so
why would that be you? Why would that be you, sir? Because you're not the one who's making all these machinations.
I don't know. My friends have been misinformed. Like I said, they got the 2 letters mixed up. They think it's TDS. It's actually DTS, deranged Trump syndrome.
Yeah, but that wouldn't be affecting you. That would be affecting said person.
Well, that's right, I suppose. If you want to get technical here, but they're saying that I'm deranged because I blame Trump for everything. It's actually Trump is the one that's deranged. So that's just click those two letters.
Do you blame Trump for everything? I don't think so. You're, when it comes to talking about news and things like that, yes, I grant that you're anti-Trump. But I don't know.
Hold on. Like, everybody has this idea that you're anti this and you're anti that, and like it's always a black and white situation. I'm not anti-Trump. I'm anti some of his policies, right? I'm anti a lot of his policies, but it's just like there are policies that I applaud. And I've mentioned them here too. So, but
yeah, because exactly that's true.
I mean, I don't like him attacking my country. He attacks my country. Anybody that says I have Trump deranged syndrome because I don't like him attacking our country, he's got he attacks our country all the time.
Well, you can attack
tariff here, another tariff there.
You can attack our country all you want, right? But he can't. That's part of democracy, you say, isn't it?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So while we're talking about this sort of stuff,
the whole idea of the IEPA trade cudgel. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, it's okay. Go on. Finish the thought.
Yeah, I was just saying that of course I don't like him attacking our countries, and the IEPA thing is being taken away from him anyway now. So we'll see what he does now. But the fact of the matter is, he doesn't want to cooperate. He wants to threaten, and that's what bothers me the most.
Yeah. Okay. So just because over the weekend there's been 2 high-profile arrests relating to the Epstein files, because we, of course, had Prince Andrew And then we've had this Norwegian Prime Minister, former Norwegian Prime Minister Thorbjorn Jagland, who's charged with gross corruption over his ties to Epstein. All right. Intriguing that we've got two now, and already St. Catherine, the fallout is starting to occur insofar as St. Catherine's Mayor Matt Sisko is saying that he wants to change the demands to change the name of Prince Andrew Court. There's also another. I also saw demands to change the name of Prince Andrew, whatever, a street in Brampton and other places.
Well, we talked about this last week, and why the hell do you want to name it Prince Andrew anyway when he didn't do anything? Like, he ain't any big hero. Just because he's a royal, you got to name it for him. It's like, so why did you do that in the first place? Yeah, well, now of course you want to change those names, but my point here would be that the United Kingdom, Norway, and other countries are moving on the Epstein thing. As soon as the Epstein files have been released, we find that it's a worldwide thing, that Epstein was a kind of an evil genius in a way. He had everybody, he watched everybody, and he connected with everybody. Like, everybody was his pal. You hear a lot of stuff. Oh, he's a great guy. He's wonderful. You're my best friend. All that stuff, from everybody in every field of life. But the other countries are moving on the criminality of it. So the Norwegians, the Danes, the UK are looking into their politicians and businessmen who got mixed up with this guy and are making investigations. But what's happening in the States? No, they're not investigating Lutnick. They're not investigating Trump. They're not investigating Clinton. They're not. I mean, they're not putting out indictments of any kind. And
it will take police time to file indictments. That's for sure. And I was surprised. I don't know how long have these files been open out there. Because the Prince Andrew arrest happened last week. The files have been out there for about 6 weeks now, beginning of the year.
Yeah, but that goes back because Dufresne had to pay $12 million to Dufresne for hush money in a settlement they got there. The problem here is everybody seems to not take these women seriously. They want justice. They want accountability. And nobody really wants to give them that, because the people who got mixed up with Jeffrey Epstein, whether it was for his sexual trysts or whether it's just for money they were getting from him for their charities or whatever, they just don't want this to come out, and it's just I don't know. He's just the U.S. in particular are not moving on any of this yet. So I don't know how long it will take them to come up with any kind of indictments. But you can understand now why if that's one answer to why Biden didn't open up those files. Look at the can of worms they opened up. It's a worldwide thing, and it's affecting as many Republicans as Democrats.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad it's open because you're finally making rich people accountable for a lot of the things they've been doing. Some of the nasty, kind of the sort of questionable financial moves they made. Of course, the sex thing, of course, and the abuse of that. The implications that this was all tied up with Mossad too, and that they were selling U.S. secrets to Russia and all this mess. It's all going to be sorted out.
But notice,
and it's better open than closed. I know, but you can understand why nobody once Pandora's box was open. Pam Bondi and Cash Patel and everybody else is trying to put the lid back on it.
Yeah, and that isn't going to close. And at the end of the day, there's going to be a whole raft of high-profile arrests over this. These are just the first two, and they're going to. I even say they'll probably end up going through the US, even if they don't go now.
So a couple of weeks ago, I talked to a relatively new Canadian, and he was like, he said, we came to North America. He says, but I had no idea. I says, it's kind of very strange to him who kind of looked to the West as the better. They had better ethics, better everything. That's why one of the reasons why they moved to the West.
Yeah.
They had better governments, better ethics, better morals and everything. And then he's surprised, like all these figures in the U.S. Politics, business, worldwide politics and business are all mixed up with this weirdo guy, including Trump and Clinton, former presidents, prime ministers. They're all mixed up with this guy, and they're all indulging in what he has to offer. And he's just shaking his head. Is this how the West is run?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not just the West, though. I bet you'll find that there's plenty of people in other parts of the world that are involved in this as well.
Well, sure, they were involved in it, but it was the big money and mostly Western finance, mostly Western espionage, if you will, mostly Western figures. And those of the other parts of the world that were involved in Western finance and Western all that.
Yeah.
So you won't find too many Chinese in there, will you? You won't find too many people from the CCP, will you? You haven't heard anything of them.
Well, yeah, that's probably fairly true because they don't get out much from China anyway, do they?
Maybe Xi's got his own little island somewhere.
Yeah, that's another one entirely, and we'd never know. Okay. Ambassador Bridge owner donated $1 million to PAC's to Trump's PAC, but that precedes the time at which Trump actually made the border threat against the Gordie Howe Bridge.
Well, I would say that Trump's not too deranged on this one because he sees money coming into his election campaigns and things. Because this fellow, the guy that owns the Ambassador Bridge, has a monopoly right now on.
Well, yes and no.
Why?
Yes and no, he does. Yes, I suppose he does. To Detroit.
Tell me why he doesn't. They have a tunnel. They have a tunnel for cars, but why doesn't he have a monopoly on trucks going over?
Yeah, I was going to say yes and no because there is a bridge at Sarnia, of course, a few miles north.
That's not a few miles north. That's a heck of a distance up there, right? And a lot of the traffic is not going to go up there and back again. No, so he has pretty much a monopoly over the stuff that goes over that border, especially the big stuff. And there's lots of lineups. It does not have the capacity. There's huge lineups on that Ambassador Bridge from time to time because of truck traffic. So what he did,
been over it. It's horrible when there's truck traffic. You get in the wrong lane and suddenly you're way back.
Yeah. So basically, he doesn't want to share the revenue, and this Gordie Howe Bridge is being built by Canada, and it's a partnership between the state of Michigan and the government of Canada.
Yeah.
So the arrangement they had that goes back to 2012, which Trump approved big time in 2017. He gave it a hoorah. What a great idea in 2017. Gave it his blessing, told everybody what a great idea it was, and fast-tracked it. What happens is that Canada would build the bridge, put out the money for the bridge, because Michigan didn't have it. So Canada would put up the money for the bridge and take in the tolls until the bridge is paid. And then after that, they share the tolls. But in the meantime, the bridge is divided between the state of Michigan and the government of Canada. So the states owns half of it. Canada owns half of it from the very beginning.
And at the end of the day, the toll charge is something that is, it happens on all the bridges, and nobody can complain that Canada's put, because Canada's put the money up. Nobody can complain that they take the money in the first instance until the bridge is paid. It's probably what, a 15-year commitment.
I don't know. They did the same thing with other bridges, and
exactly.
But whatever it is, that was the agreement they made way back in 2012. Canada would build the bridge and pay for it through tolls until that the bridge was paid for. Then they would split the tolls thereafter.
Well, it was the US that made the Peace Bridge, wasn't it?
I don't know. And anyway, so the whole gist of this particular article is that Maroon, who is he's a MAGA guy, the guy that owns the Ambassador Bridge, made a $1 million donation to Trump's super PAC or Trump PAC, and then hours before Trump issued the threats against the bridge. This is a bridge that he loved, by the way. Now all of a sudden he doesn't. That Lutnick went over to him and got into his ear and said, our buddy Maroon here, he doesn't want that bridge to open because it's cutting into his profitability, and he's a big donor to us. So then Trump does the deranged Trump thing going on. He starts talking about stuff that makes absolutely no sense at all. Nobody understands what he is. Carney had to call him and said, hey, do you know what happened here? You proved it yourself. We pay for the bridge. Michigan and us share the bridge. It's 50-50. We do not control what goes over it and back over it. We don't have control of that. You have the control on your side. We have the control on our side. Just like any ordinary everyday bridge. That there is no special. So Trump makes this stuff up, though. Of course, it makes it sound really weird. Oh yeah, they can't control us. They owe us. How can we owe them when we pay for it and use U.S. steel and concrete and U.S. labor to boot?
Yeah.
So it doesn't. The whole thing doesn't make sense, and that's why I call it the deranged Trump. Deranged Trump syndrome, because he's deranged. It makes no sense. It's like sending a hospital ship to Greenland when nobody asked for it, and nobody needed it.
Nobody needed it, because in fact, okay. So if you look at Greenland, probably if you had a serious medical condition in Greenland, you'd probably have to head off to Denmark to get it resolved. But
no, they would go anywhere. They would go anywhere closest. Like, for instance, if you had a serious say you had an accident or something, they would airvac you to the closest hospital available, and that might be in Canada, that might be in Iceland.
But Greenland would pay for it.
Of course.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Okay. So moving on, there's a shelter-in-place order in Puerto Vallarta. And interesting, I was seeing comments from some Facebook friends of mine over this weekend. Both of them in the town at the moment.
Oh, they're in there. Yeah. What are they saying? What's going on there?
Well, they're basically just commenting. In fact, actually, one of them is Ann Cote from here. Really? Yeah, she's in Puerto in the town, right? And another friend of mine from another part of Ontario is actually also in the town.
So she's giving up. She's giving up the snow up here for the snow down there.
Yeah. So this is kind of the Canadians are urged to stay in place. and flights have been cancelled after cartel violence erupted throughout the region. And this followed the death of drug lord Nemesio Cervantes.
El Mencho.
What?
He goes by El Mencho.
Yeah. Okay. That is
Right,
El
so,
Mencho. Yeah, El Mencho. Yeah. Yep. We got you.
So basically, now the thing here is there's all kinds of rumors that now Gary says to me that him and Paul figure that I'm going to blame Trump for this somehow. No, but I would say that there's all kinds of rumors that the United States and Mexico cooperated on this raid. So I don't think the Americans had boots on the ground, but they may have had intelligence operatives that helped them out.
Yeah,
we've seen the extraordinary intelligence that have facilitated the Israelis and U.S. Moves in the Middle East. How amazing their intelligence has been when they take out certain operatives or put explosives in pagers and all this other stuff. It takes an extreme amount of very sophisticated intelligence. I think what the U.S. is doing is offering the Mexicans that intelligence capability, because the Mexicans have had a war against the cartels, and they lost 30,000 people in that war. It was basically a street-to-street battle. And sometimes what happened is the cartels are just too strong. They're almost a whole government unto themselves. So what the Mexican government did, it was just kind of stop the war because it wasn't getting them anywhere, and they had to kind of do the status quo thing. They know it was there, but they can't do much against it. But now, maybe with the help of U.S. intelligence, they may have been able to get to the cartels, and they took out El Mencho. So we'll see what happens. But of course, El Mencho's people erupted and started fighting back.
Mm.
And that's always been the problem that Mexico has had. Every time they attack them, they're attacked back.
Yeah. And that is a big problem within the whole of the Mexican cartels anyway, because they don't like being attacked.
Of course they don't. And they have enough firepower and wealth to be able to sort of have their own kind of administration. They do what everybody like cartels do. They go around and they set up stations for soup kitchens and poverty relief areas and all that to try to get in good with the people. They spend their money around, and whole towns and stuff get much more wealthier as these cartel guys spread their money around. And in the meantime, it's very hard for the government to get in there and get at the cartels when they're protected by the people.
Mm. Okay, the last comment that Mike has put up there is putting the World Cup in jeopardy.
Yeah, that could be.
There's two nations that they're now saying can't be hosting the World Cup, and we don't have the stadiums for them. Sorry.
Well, I think the Mexicans will make sure that they're fine. Like, there are certain areas here that it shows you in the map where the cartels are stronger. The problem with Mexico is a segmented country. It's divided by mountain. Like, it's not a clear connected country. It has sections of the country that's almost like independent, and that's always been a big problem for Mexico to govern this area through a centralized approach, and they've always had that problem. They are evolving. I believe more modern economy and stuff is going to come to Mexico, and somehow maybe that will help get rid of the cartels. But look, it was a century for the U.S. to come down on the mafia, and it still exists out there. It took them years and years and years to come down on mafia, and huge amounts of resources to do that. It cost a lot of money, and the mafia wasn't as pervasive as these cocaine cartels are, or in this case, fentanyl cartels as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just that there's a lot of people, obviously, from Canada that spend their time down in parts of Mexico in the winter. And, we've got to be, those people are obviously in a terrible situation right now because Air Canada has been cancelling flights to the area. Yet they're basically saying the airport is still operating normally.
Well, I don't know. It may not. Some of the flights may be canceled. Of course, the airport's operating normally, but you have to remember that the cartels might even be able to assault the airports, as they have done before. We found shootouts happening at the airports down there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm not saying that everything is normal at all just because the airport's open, right? But again, getting to the airport is one thing. Getting onto a flight is quite another.
So, what does it mean for Canada? I don't know. It may inhibit tourism for a while. I would say not in the long term, because Mexico is a very popular destination for a lot of people here. We do know, like, I think we talked about Paul before. I think Paul went there every year for several years, didn't he? Down to somewhere in Mexico.
I believe so. Yeah, don't know where.
Yeah, so I think, also Mexico is becoming more and more popular as a medical tourist destination. I know somebody who got their whole, they had to have extensive dental work, and save thousands of dollars by having it down there.
Okay.
And so they just go to reliable dentists. You can figure that out. And in this particular case, it was easier for her because she's Canadian. She was Canadian, and now she's American. But she spent a lot of her time as a youth down in Mexico when their family was down there working. His father was working down there, and so she knows Spanish as well as she knows English.
Yeah.
So it was easier for her to figure out, where to go to get dental work.
Yeah.
We also find a lot of medical tourism, like for other things. The thing you want to stay away from, though, is the vanity stuff. That's not so well regulated. So if you're wanting liposuction or face jobs and boob jobs and all that other stuff, I'd stay away from that. Like, I wouldn't, I'm gonna postpone my plastic surgery because I don't need it. I'm too handsome.
You mean you were going down there for a face job?
Well, I certainly wasn't going for a boob job.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't surprise me you needed a face job, but hey, well, I'm not going to go there.
Well, I had complaints from the other bingo callers that I was too handsome, so I was going to go down there and de-handsamize myself a little bit, just to
de-handsamize yourself. Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So I wish everybody well there. Stay safe. All right. So what does the Supreme Court ruling on tariffs mean to Canada?
Doesn't mean a whole lot right away, because the sectoral tariffs they have on steel and aluminum still exist. So some of those are the big killers. So they, as a matter of security, as country security, like Trump has determined that too much steel comes from other places, and it's a matter of national security that their own steel and aluminum industries are protected, so that they have the capacity to make as much as they need, particularly in wartime, because you need a lot of steel and aluminum during wartime. This is okay for the steel industry because they can pick up any slack. The the cheaper steel they were getting from Canada, they can replace with more expensive steel from the U.S. by putting a big fat 50% tariff on Canadian steel. So they can do that. What they can't do is aluminum. That takes a while longer. They do have more aluminum smelters coming online, but that takes a very long time, and they'll never be able to pick up the capacity. So we expect that at some time or other, the tariffs on aluminum and nickel and stuff like that will go down because they cannot produce it on their own. It's like the banana thing. When Lutnick or whoever it was Besant was asked, well, how come there's a tariff on bananas? And they go on and on about trade and all this. They don't even, and they're said, we don't make bananas. Why are you putting a tariff on bananas? Mm-hmm. We don't make it.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit different than steel and aluminum, though, because they can make the case that it's a matter of security.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I don't know about Paul's comment here. How about hand job? You're not allowed to work there.
I don't get that one.
No, neither do I. I'd love to hear more, Paul.
What, Mexico?
I'm showing US, but it could be Mexico. Yeah.
Not allowed to work there.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Send us back something that's more reference to.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway.
So the court decided 6-3, including two of Trump nominees, Neil Gorsuch and Amy Coney Barrett, who were appointed during the first Trump administration, and they basically decided against the tariffs.
Yeah, and here we go with the deranged Trump again. He started decrying them, saying that they were weak. That he even suggested that they had fallen under the influence of other governments or other agencies that that swayed their opinion. He called them weak, and he called them I'll call them all kinds of names like that. That is like out of line for sure. Like, what these people are supposed to do is look at the Constitution and interpret it. And just about anybody, most people up until that, didn't know how the MAGA judges were going to vote, even when it seemed impossible for them to vote for the tariffs. To me, it's very surprising that it was 6-3. It should have been a 9-0, according to a lot of the economists or people even the ones that were MAGA ones, says very clear here in the Constitution that the power to tax people and tariffs are a tax on the American people, that comes from Congress. And the IEPA thing, and this is basically what they were against, was the IEPA thing, which is getting kind of clouded out here. The emergency measures does not include, they can't do this the way he's done it without calling in Congress, because Congress has the power of the purse. They can give it away, which they have done in different times. They can say, okay, you can put tariffs here and there on things, but it eventually comes right back to Congress. And that's the whole point of the Constitution, is divide the powers. So no one part of the government becomes more powerful than the other.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, the court did what it's supposed to do. It decided that the Constitution says that any extensive tariffs, which are a tax on the people of America, have to be justified through Congress. So what he's going to do now, he's going to just make a 10% tax all around the world, 15%, but initially a 10% tax under, I don't know, Section 122 or something like that, where he can do that for 150 days, but it still means that it has to come down to Congress after 150 days. So he's decided he's going to charge the American people 15% tax, 15% tariff instead of the ones under IEPA. So in order to make up for what is lost under the IEPA tariffs, what he's going to do is charge a around the world 10%, and then he added the 5% from I don't know where. But so he's going to charge the American people 15% for anything they buy that's not produced in the United States.
Yeah.
So the American people, maybe they'll just get the flat 15%. The average American person only have to pay at 15% for the stuff that's not produced in the United States.
That's a whole different ball game to what has been talked about before. 15% is, well, any tax you want to do is not acceptable when you're buying things, but 15% is better than 150%.
Well, when Trump put another 10% on when Doug Ford had the ad on TV.
Yeah.
Right? So Doug Ford had put the ad on TV saying Reagan was against tariffs. So Trump got mad and added another 10% tariff. Well, that's exactly, you cannot do that according to SCOTUS, right? You can't do that. Yeah. It has to go through Congress. You can't charge a tariff on a whim. The same thing when he went after Brazil. He put a 50% tariff on Brazil on a whim. There was no justification for it because the United States had a mammoth trade surplus on Brazil. They sell Brazil a lot more stuff than Brazil buys, or Brazil buys way more stuff than the U.S. buys.
Well, in fact, actually, when you think about it, the trade imbalance with Canada means that we tend to buy all the high-tech stuff that we get tends to come from the US, whereas all the low, we sell to the US things like dairy, and we get from the US much more high-tech stuff anyway, and we always have.
No, we more likely sell raw materials. We do sell some manufactured goods.
Mainly
obviously
raw materials,
nickel, aluminum, steel. Steel is probably, the door on steel is probably shut. Potash, that kind of thing. We sell them oil though. The only thing that makes the difference between the United States, if you take oil out of the equation, the United States has a huge surplus. Trade surplus. Now with the oil thing, and this is what people don't understand. Canadian oil, like the United States has more oil than it needs. It produces more oil than it needs. But what it does is the oil that's got out of fracking is sweet oil. It's a very high quality oil. They can sell that overseas for top dollar, and that's what they do. To make up for the shortfall, they bring in Canadian oil that is more, that matches the refineries more. The refineries are all set up for heavy crude. So they have all these big invested refineries. So they can import Canadian oil at a discount and sell their sweet oil at a very high price. This basically, if they didn't do that, they would have to use their own sweet oil, and they could make better money off of it selling it elsewhere.
Yeah. All right. So, go on.
Yeah. So when you really dig down into this kind of thing, then that oil purchase they make from us is that which makes the surplus. That's the only thing that gives us a surplus over the U.S. Is that oil, because they make money off of it.
Yeah, because in fact, the vast majority of stuff we import more than we export, other than the oil, right? Yeah, absolutely. And that's always been the case.
Yeah, but it's murking the waters too, and it sounds as if, and it keeps sounding as if we're going to charge this country this tariff and that country. He's not charging the country that; they're charging the U.S. citizens that.
Yeah.
When you bring in a banana and you charge 15% on the banana, you don't make bananas. Why do you want to hurt your own people with charging them for a banana 15%?
Yeah.
You know.
Well, also the other thing is that Candice Lang, who's the president of the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, said on Friday that this is not not the final chapter. This is a never-ending story, and we should now be prepared for new, blunter mechanisms being used to reassert trade pressure, potentially with broader and more disruptive effect. And this is talking Friday after the Supreme Court hearing ruling. I mean, and basically she's saying that the risk to Canadian jobs remains severe, with potential and even may even increase if Trump looks to new ways to impose tariffs or target Canadian jobs and investment. And this is actually the latter one. The last statement was made by Lena Payne of Unifor.
Yeah, we find that not there's been no real cheering there anywhere in outside of the United States or even inside the United States. What it has done is basically, as far as the Democrats and a lot of the Republicans, even the Republicans are too afraid to say anything, have pointed out that these tariffs are wrong and they're hurting American businesses. This is small businesses are the ones that launched a lot of these challenges to the U.S. government. It was a collection of small businesses. It was one of the groups that launched this challenge, and because they're the ones that are hurting the most with the tariffs. But yeah, it's very clear that nobody thinks they're out of the woods on this, and that they still are unsure of how things are going to land. With the tariffs going willy-nilly here and there on whims, like suddenly you get a 10% more because you got an advertisement on TV, and suddenly you're threatened with 100% because you made a trade deal with China, or at least you sorted out your trade with China. Suddenly you're threatened with 100%. Suddenly you're threatened with a bridge that won't open. You got to keep that bridge closed because I want more money off of it. All these things are things that rattle people because they're not sure of what's going to happen next. This may calm things down a little bit, but everyone's still very unsure of where the tariff thing is going to land. And this is disrupting businesses. And we find that there are lots of resistance to hiring people in the States right now. Everybody's just still trying to wait until they find out how this is all going to settle down. That part of it hasn't changed. So nobody really knows how this tariff thing is going to settle down. The thing that is clear, that he can't wield the tariff thing at any moment, at any time. You can't go to China and say, oh, okay, you get 145% tariff now, like you did before, right? You can't go to Canada and say you're going to get 100% tariff now.
Yeah,
because he can't use that power now, but he can find other means to which to wield tariff. Well, now the whole idea, the tariffs though, is a tax. It's a tax on the American people. So that means Congress has to be involved.
Yeah. U.S. to lift the passport for Canada to cross the border. Hey?
Probably to encourage Canadians to come back in because Canadian tourism is down overall 27% in the United States.
It's down massively, across the whole of the US. There are towns now that are basically trying to do advertising campaigns, and a lot of towns that seem to want to do advertising campaigns to attract Canadians there, but nobody's going.
No one's going. Well, there's another factor here, though. That, of course, is Canadian. How much money Canadians have.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
The idea is you might be getting a better deal going to the islands than you would going to the States if you're looking for warmth.
And
right?
especially if our economy, the the difference between the Canadian and US dollars makes a great deal of difference, because essentially if I have to pay 150 for, you know, a Canadian for my US dollar, that it's a hard thing to do.
Yeah, that's a big expense.
Yeah.
Uh, and of course, there's the objection of going to the United States. Now, nobody objects to the Americans or going to the United States, but everybody's got that on the back of their mind. Even people
Yeah.
who own property down there are thinking, should I go down there? Should I, I mean, that kind of thing. Well, you've already made the investment, so you might as well go down. But they're thinking, this is a something that's affected Canadians quite a bit. Had being tariffed and particularly on a whim, and kind of pointed out and called the 51st state and being insulted, and our prime minister's being assaulted. Carney just got called governor of Canada again, that kind of thing. And I think we all just want Trump to go away so things can go back to normal.
Well, that isn't going to happen. We know that.
No, it ain't gonna happen. No.
That for at least another 3 years, that isn't going to happen. And you know, but the question here is what the Supreme Court, I think, has now done is kind of brought some of this kind of rash up and down with the tariffs. Well, oh, it's 150%. Oh, you negotiated. Oh, yeah, we'll give you 15. Right. Some of that, madness has gone.
Well, that's the tool they took away from him.
Yeah.
The tariff on a whim.
Yeah.
So he can get mad at Ontario for putting an ad with Reagan in it on the World Series, and he can immediately go another 10%. Congress, Scott says you can't do that.
Yeah,
you have to go. We have to go through Congress, and we find that Congress and Senate, they're generally speaking against the tariffs against Canada and Mexico. Overall, they find that most of the members of the Congress and Senate see a lot of very positive returns on the trade agreement we have with the United States.
And even despite the troubles that Mexico's going through right now, those are short term and will be gone within weeks, I would think.
Well, it's a continuous problem, but the Mexicans are now the number one trade partner of the United States. And the tariff thing really hasn't helped much because the trade imbalance that the United States has with the rest of the world has gone up. The tariffs have not protected the United States from reduced amounts of goods coming into the country. They have increased. And the trade deficit that the United States has increased during Trump's time, not decreased. Now, maybe they say, well, it's going to take some time before that equals itself out. But for the meantime, the United States demand for foreign goods has not diminished. They are still the most wealthiest country in the world, so their dollar still commands the most respect around the world. And if Americans want to buy something that happens to come from somewhere else in the world, they're going to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
So that,
Yeah, that whole thing about tariffs anyway is that I think the people it hurts the most are the poorest people in America.
Well, that's what it's because the tariffs are not graduated to income. So if you're going to buy a banana, if you're going to buy a bunch of bananas and there's a 15% tariff on it, that's going to hurt you as a poor person, not as a rich person.
Yeah,
you're going to buy a car
bananas,
and there's and components of it were tariffed. That's not going to hurt a rich person. It's going to hurt you though, as a person who's poor.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You buy where you used to buy, let's say $5 on bananas. No, that's probably a bit much. Where you used to pay $2.50 on bananas, you're now paying 15% over and above that. So
yeah, I'm picking bananas. They might not have a tariff on bananas anymore, but whatever. But you get the idea,
yeah,
right?
I know. Yeah, I know.
So the American people are now. So the poor people will have to pay 15% more on everything, and the rich people have to pay 15% more on everything. Well, the rich people, that doesn't bother the rich because they got lots of money.
Yeah.
So adding 15% to the price tag of everyday goods, washing machines, dryers, whatever, doesn't make much of a difference. What's this one?
Paul is saying what you said about trade deficit is not true. In October 2025, the US had the smallest monthly trade deficit since 2009.
That's not what's come up. The news I've heard just a couple of days ago that they examined the trade deficit over the year 2025, and they said the trade deficit was actually increased. So I don't know. We're cross purposes here. We're looking at different data, I guess.
Okay, one thing that is important to what Rick is saying here: all vacations in the world are based upon the US dollar. That's fairly true. You go to anywhere, whether it's South Africa, Kenya, India, you will find that you will have to take the US dollar with you in order to trade to local currency, because other currencies don't have the same benefits as US dollar.
Well, the U.S. dollar has a huge power. If you want to get, when I was getting visas to go from Thailand to Laos, I had to use American money,
US,
and not Cambodian money, not Laotian money, not Thai money. It had to be American money, and it had to be crisp, brand new bills. And then when I went from Cambodia to Vietnam, I had to use crisp American money. So you have to, when you go there, make sure the money is nice and flat and brand new, because if it's crinkled, they won't take it.
Yeah. Well, it was the same in Kenya, because when I first went to Kenya in the 80s, the British pound ruled. When I went back to Kenya in the last decade, you have to have US dollar.
Yeah, it's because it's the reserve currency of the world. The British pound used to be, but after the war, the American dollar was the reserve currency around the world.
Yeah. Okay, next one on here: trade deficit with China has reduced 94 billion, a 32% decrease. Yes, I know that one has been going on, but that's actually been going on for quite some time, Paul. That's not as a result of the last year. That's actually as a result of a lot of pullback from China over the last 8 or 9 years.
Yeah, it's part of a trend. That trend's been going on for a while.
Yeah,
and so we can give a lot of credit there to Biden.
Well, I'm not saying Biden. I'm not saying Biden.
Well, I know
the whole thing has been going on
a joke, man.
Since Trump. Well, Trump raised it in his first term of office, and it's got a lot of people thinking it's the same situation here in Canada. I know we did that recent TV deal with China, but the whole thing is many Western nations have actually changed how they're trading with China now.
Well, China too. China.
Paul is saying that was
China hasn't. What?
Paul is saying that was for a single year. I don't think so, but still, yeah.
No, it's a trend. The U.S. and China have been. U.S. has been taking in less over a period of time, and it hasn't been just the last year. So there's been this tendency, but China has also noted that and has expanded its trade more worldwide. So what China's understood that they're going to have problems with the U.S. and other Western nations because of their trade practices. So what they've done is pretty much expanded outside of their usual markets. They had a strong dependency on the U.S. market for a very long time. They didn't like that, having that dependency, even though it brought them a lot of money. So they've decreased their dependency on the U.S. So so that trade's gone down probably, but it still makes up a huge amount the trade imbalance between China and the United States is still hugely in favor of China. And that goes for China just about everywhere else in the world, because China was financed by the West, by the U.S. and by the Western companies, financed China to build these factories to make really cheap parts. And they made lots and lots of money financing China to do that. They made money taking things even from Welland. I mean, one of the factories in Welland moved there. Yeah, I think it was the one that was making forging safety clips for safety harnesses or something like that. Because they can, instead of making a $1 million profit, they can make a $10 million profit, make it in China.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else on that?
Just no. Just gonna put up. So that. I was going to put up U.S. trade deficit. See if I can.
Yeah.
They may not have the same trade deficit. It says here, I don't know. Tariffs are not shrinking the U.S. trade deficit, and so that was the Wall Street Journal saying why tariffs are not shrinking the U.S. trade deficit. That was part of the reasoning for the tariffs, was to onshore more manufacturing.
Yeah,
it seems there are more manufacturing starting, but it still hasn't affected the trade deficit, because the U.S. still has huge demand for goods outside of the U.S.
Yeah,
but
right.
Seriously, they're the richest people on the planet, so of course they're going to buy whatever they want. It's mismanagement on the government's part.
Yeah,
that the deficits got so bad, and that we owe money.
All right, bring this back home for the last few minutes. A Brampton landlord says he can't sleep at night because his tenants stopped paying rent almost as soon as she moved in. And the worst thing about this is that the tenant involved is actually being involved in another dispute earlier on in 2023. So it took 2 years to get her kicked out from an apartment in 2023, and now she's leeching on this particular landlord. This is not new. This is a trend I think, unfortunately, we're going to see over and over again.
Well, the thing is, they're not checking properly. One of those that was mentioned there went to an agency to get themselves a tenant, but that agency didn't do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
The thing is that the people buy things and they think they're going to be landlords, and that's it. They'll just buy a place and let the renters pay the mortgage. But what you have to do is check out your tenant. There are means by which of doing that, and everybody thinks they know better, and so they just buy a place and rent it out, and then they get like a sluggard in there, and that won't move, and they can't get them out. So you got to do your homework in the first part. You have to check out your tenant, and the number one easiest way to do that is do a credit check on them. And that's the number one thing. If they have money owing, then stay away from them. They're not good with money. And that means if they owe money to the credit card companies, the car company, and if they're not paying it or have had defaults, stay away from them, a million miles away. They can be the greatest guy you ever meet. You can have a beer with them, shoot a game of pool with them. Fabulous person to hang out with, but they don't know how to manage money. So just keep away from them.
Well, yes and no, but there are some people who've got poor credit scores who are absolutely the greatest at paying rent.
That is exception rather than the rule.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying. I'm just stating that, and of course, this is the second
If you
time.
don't know what you're doing, if you don't know that person, and if they have trouble economically, and you look at their credit history, and they've had problems owing money, they owe lots of money to credit cards, they owe money to this person, that person, all over the place, owe money to Canadian Tire, whoever else. Stay away from them. They can be great people, but they don't know how to manage money,
Yeah.
and you're going to get stiffed.
And Angela, Karen's asking, should I cash my American money?
No, no,
No,
that's
I would
gold.
say not.
That's gold. Keep on, keep it. The American
Yeah.
economy is doing quite fine. Basically, the bones of the American economy is it's still strong.
Yeah.
It's been chugging along. There's a lot of uncertainty because of tariffs and other things, of wars going on out there. But in the midst of all that uncertainty from years and years and years, what is the main thing that's held up over that time is U.S. money.
Yeah.
If you've got U.S. money now and you want to buy stuff, yeah, cash it in and buy it because you're going to get good worth for it. But
Yeah.
otherwise, I would just hold on to it.
All right. Yeah. So this whole question about tenancies is not going to go away anyway anytime soon.
Anyway, I got to split. I got to do my
Yep.
bingo thing.
Yep.
And I'd just like to mention though that Tucker Carlson had a interview with Huckabee, who was Trump's man in Israel, and
We'll
that's
come to that.
revealing.
Yeah, we'll come to that tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to mention because of the Gaza thing, and Huckabee is a Christian Zionist, and he's already made up his mind about everything based on his kind of weirdo interpretation of the Bible and all that. So I would say that poor Gazans, the poor Palestinians are in for a tough ride, because if you've got guys like that who can't see anybody but one point of view, they can only see the Israelis' point of view in that whole thing. Poor Palestinians are not going to get a fair shake at all. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, he won't even admit how many people got killed, with the Gaza thing. Anyway, without further ado, I bid you adieu, and we'll see you tomorrow. Pray for peace.
Yeah. All right.